Okay, we're live. So, hey everyone, it's Dorka, and today I have another guest here to talk about comic making, and I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell us what he's currently working on.
Okay, my name is Erik. I go by ErikonPaper online because I thought it sounded catchy. Uh, what I'm working on now is I've been hired to illustrate a couple comics. I'm working on my own series, BreakNek, that you can find on Drive-Through Comics. Shameless plug, but I don't care.
Go for it.
As well as a couple other new series that are in the works. Everything ranging from comedy to like an introspective superhero drama, and everything in between.
Awesome. And what is BreakNek about?
BreakNek is a character I created. She was initially part of a team group called Girl Commandos, published by Lucky Comics. BreakNek, or the editor of that said, "Hey, you own the rights to the character completely?" Me, yeah, I thought of her 100%. Well, can you make her own thing? Me, yeah, 100%. So the way I would describe her is she's a cross between like a Wolverine and the Flash. She has the Flash's abilities, but definitely Wolverine's attitude. And it's a real sci-fi action adventure, excuse me, because she's a part cyborg. So I played up like the technological angle.
Cool. All right. And how far are you into this series?
The initial deal I struck was a limited series, 3 issues, and the first one, as I said, is out. Second one, I've got the thumbnails and script written. I'm going to pencils really soon. We were settling on the villain and eventually came up with something that everyone is really happy with. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I'm looking forward to illustrating the character very much. It was one of those things where like I was racking my brain with with trying to come up with new ideas, and then of course this old one just sitting there in a sketchbook. I'm like, hey, that's what I was trying to come up with. Sent a photo to the editor, and he really liked it, so that's where we're going.
Cool. And gosh, there's a bunch of things I want to ask, but I guess I want to try and keep this flowing in the way. But well, are you a full-time artist? Because it sounds like you've got a lot of cool opportunities just happening that you're balancing.
Yeah, right now I am working as a full-time artist. I also when the opportunity allows, of course, because of the pandemic, things have been put on hold. But I work in film as well, acting and things like that. But since I'm not really since the productions involved are really small, and I'm not taking the risk. I'm heavily invested in the comic and illustration work now. Do I do it full time? Yeah, as much as possible. I love working in comics. I love the field itself. I actually a friend of mine just hired me to ink a book that he illustrated.
Cool.
So yeah, we've been hashing that out, and I try to work as full time as much as possible. I mean, of course, the goal would be to be like working with the big two at least once.
Right.
Life goal of mine, honestly, is to illustrate a Superman comic.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, he technically, okay, he's not the one that started it all, but he's the one everyone thinks about. So like, if my name could be a little footnote in there, then life is made.
Awesome. Yeah. Definitely. What? So I have my questions here. So you talked about, and what I'm seeing from what you've explained about BreakNek and kind of what we had talked about before is that you're this character is slowly getting her own universe.
Yeah, very, very slowly. I have a lot of character ideas, a lot of ways that the character could go, but I think, but like right now, she's a very follow the orders, military precise character. and you'll see that in her Girl Commandos appearances. I wrote those issues, so
Okay.
I'm deliberately setting her. Uh, I have to digress for a second, but I promise I'll keep
No,
it
go
in.
for it. Go for it.
Okay, so uh, John Helmer, the founder of Lucky Comics, wrote the first issue of Girl Commandos. Then he liked a script I submitted to him and said, "Would you be interested in writing the following, like that series?" Me looking for work. Yes, absolutely. Team books are my favorite.
Mm.
And I like the team. I like the characters. They have like Beetle Girl, who's like the descendant of the Blue Beetle, the public domain one, not the DC one, just so we don't get in trouble.
Okay.
Yeah, Beetle Girl and Flame Girl and oh my goodness, I forgot her name. It's been a long time since I wrote, but there was. But anyway, oh, Nightbird was a character also that was public domain. Reimagined her to be. He said, make her a millennial spunky reporter. So I'm like, okay, but for the most part, everyone on the team, agreed with each other. It was a team that flowed well, and sure they talked differently,
Mhm.
but it was a team of people with the same ideology. And he said, create your own character to change things up.
Hmm.
And I thought, well, I don't want another voice that sounds exactly the same as the others. So I thought, well, I said, well, the women on this team, they do a great job, pretty much giving their leader, all kinds of crap and saying, like, sure, boss, that may be your orders, but we disagree with them. And I thought, okay, so we need a by the book character, but not in a boring, static, stoic way.
Mhm.
She's like aggressively follow orders and commands,
Mm.
and the funny thing is, he visually when I designed the character, uh, all the others had the what are they called, like not Harlequin masks, but the masks that cover their eyes but leave the mouth
Uh-huh.
exposed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know what they're called.
yeah. It'll occur to me like after this interview is done.
All right. Same.
Oh, domino masks. There we go. I am doing
Okay.
better. And if I'm not, oh my god. But anyway, so I thought visually, okay, let's make her stand out. I gave her the Mortal Kombat style face mask that
Mhm.
covers, well, that everyone's got now, but at the time it was different than the other characters. And just to make her stand apart from the team, and their designs were all really, really cool, classic superhero retro.
Mhm.
I went kind of more a modern-ish approach with her just to differentiate her, and apparently people like the character. And that being said, it's like that was a long digression, but to get back to your initial question of
Mhm.
her own universe, yeah, it takes a place in a lot of the Lucky Comics universe, at the start with like the equivalent to Hydra, for example, from the Marvel movies, is an organization I came up with called Scythe. I just thought it sounded menacing.
Yeah,
Uh,
it does.
yeah, they're kind of like our Hydra, like Cobra, that kind of classic terrorist organization. And her superior was introduced in the Lucky Comics, but ideally, I've written the books in such a way where you don't have to pick up these issues to understand anything. It's like, okay, menacing looking guys equals bad,
Yeah.
that type of thing. And yeah, her universe is going to be a very gradual one because I think if you hit people with too many characters too fast, the audience might just get like not that they can't handle it, but be a little overwhelmed.
Yeah. Definitely. For sure. Um. So what? Obviously, it's Breakneck superhero, but what other genre are you tying into her story for just her? Like, what other aspects of it are there?
I would say you're going to see a lot of dramatic aspects soon,
Mhm.
because she'll be going through in this arc. She's going to question the very core of her persona.
Mhm.
Um, it's like so I would say that superhero and drama are the biggest ones, but that being said, I want this to be a book you have fun reading.
Yeah.
Like growing up and reading Spider-Man comics, they're fun, but sometimes they could get downright depressing. It's like I love the character, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I read comics to escape my problems.
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know and if I can relate so much to the character's problems, I think to myself, is anyone having fun in the universe? And then I read a Batman comic, I'm like, my life is so much better than everyone in Gotham's.
Definitely. Um, well, I want to. Well, I'm looking at your website too, and that's kind of why I don't want my question to jump all over their place. But I'm curious about your writing because you have a book section on your
Oh,
website, and so you've written some uh, new Pulp World.
yeah.
So yeah, what's that? I'm curious.
That's how I got my start professionally, actually. I was looking I was initially looking to break in as a writer of comics, and you quickly realize that everyone and their grandma wants to be a comics writer. So
Hmm.
there's this big glut. But I'm thinking, I really love to write. There has to be an avenue.
Hmm.
And I happen to like old pulp characters, like the Shadow, Doc Savage, and I thought, why doesn't anyone do something with that?
Hmm.
Turns out they are. There are companies that are doing that. And I reached out to a company, Airship 27,
Hmm.
and the editor there, Ron, was kind enough to say, "Hey, if you want to pitch me a story and follow these guidelines, I'll take a look at your work."
Hmm.
And so the first story I wrote, it wasn't the first one published, but the first one I wrote was for Black Bat Volume 3,
Hmm.
and I like just it was my first professional opportunity. I did not want to blow it. I just poured my heart into every single, aspect of it, trying to make it as fun and pulpy, as exciting as I could.
Cool.
And he really liked it. And uh, then, actually, my favorite story I've ever written, like in prose fiction, was the next book for Towers of Metropolis,
Hmm.
based off the Fritz Lang.
Oh, the Metropolis movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was really cool, because he said, I want to open up and expand the world.
Hmm.
And he sent me two stories to say, here's an idea of what we're looking for. And but and of course, those two writers took the first two ideas that are in my head, and I'm like, let myself, okay, fair play. I have to be extra, extra creative. So and there were good stories too.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm watching the movie, and I notice all these aircraft flying, and I thought, I'm gonna write about like an air traffic controller and a pirate or a pilot, and yep, that's my site.
Yeah.
And so I would say that I love opening up and expanding worlds
Hmm.
quite a bit. Like I see you looking at the Sherlock Holmes one there.
Yeah.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, the best-selling one, uh,
Okay. Of course.
because everyone loves Holmes.
Yeah.
And with that one, it's funny, and I encourage like all creators to just really pay attention to the conversations you're having with friends, because that came from a debate that a friend of mine had. The Sherlock Holmes story is that, can there ever be like a motiveless murder?
Hmm.
I mean, if it's deliberate, like I'm not talking about like, oh, I ran over someone, that's of course a totally different thing. But I'm talking actually physically killing someone, and could there be a murder without a motive? And Holmes argue or Holmes, says no, and Watson says, well, yes, that possibility exists if it's
Hmm.
madness. It was this debate that later, of course, turned into a mystery. But so I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Jerry Nash, who I had this debate with in college. Thank you,
Hmm.
Jerry. You're not getting any royalties, though.
So I was wondering let me stop sharing really quick. From just some of the stuff you talked about, for example, the Commando girls, where Breakneck first appeared, you said they were based off of, like, they were supposed to be descendants of already created characters that were public domain.
Yes.
And then you've got these stories like Sherlock Holmes. I think Alan Quartermain is kind of a public domain character, right?
Yeah, he is.
So what I'm finding interesting is that not all of your stories, but kind of you seem to work in stories first with things that are in public domain.
Yeah, that it's funny you bring it up. That is actually how how it did end up starting. Um, I think that the I mean, in an ideal world, they'd all be in public domain, so creators could have these epic crossovers. I could finally illustrate that, Spawn Ghost Rider comic that I think should be a thing. Uh, but in any case, I think starting off with the public domain was a good basis to where it's not like you have an intense burden of figuring out how your character works, how they think,
Mhm.
what they do. Like for example, with the Black Bat, I was familiar with the character, though I never actually read a story of his beyond like some comic books.
Mhm.
But thankfully, the internet's my friend, and I was scouring through everything. And there was a Hero's Bible too that was given to us by at Airship 27, and I read through that. And to be honest, the character, it's funny that you bring up the public domain. The character I had the most trouble writing was the Purple Scar,
Mhm.
because his identity, I mean, his regular persona was just so boring to me. I'm reading it, I'm thinking, this guy is good at everything. He has an assistant who's head over heels in love with him.
Mhm.
And I'm like, and so I'm like, oh, I have to make this guy compelling somehow for the scenes where he's not the super character. But I think when you write for other people's characters, first off, you have to be respectful.
Yeah.
Like if I ever, had the privilege of, working in a universe you created, and
Mhm.
you said, here's character A, they don't do this, this is how they think, this is how they operate.
Mhm.
It's not my job to say, okay, respectfully, I see where you're coming from, but you're wrong about your character. I I'm thinking at that point you just throw a frying pan at my head or something. I'm not qualified to write it. But yeah, writing with the public domain, it's like fan fiction you can get paid for. It's the best of both worlds. But but yeah, it's a good training ground, I think, for your original characters, because you can find out strengths and weaknesses.
Mhm.
Like uh, okay, Ghost Boy was not actually in public domain. He was an original creation
Mhm.
of somebody else, not me. But in these stories, you get to create all the villains and all the supporting cast, and because in pulps in particular, they frequently killed off their villains.
Mhm.
Like, I'm talking just dead, no possibility of coming back.
Right.
Uh, so what I had to do was think of like, okay, who's a character people potentially want to see again, want to connect with, and and with Ghost Boy, I I created, this assassin, uh, almost zombie-like character, but they don't know it yet. Really
Mhm.
keeping with what was popular at the time. Like it's supposed to be set in the '60s, like late '50s, early '60s.
Mhm.
But people like that character quite a bit. And but the point is like it's kind of I had that safety net of okay, people know and like Ghost Boy, so as long as I get him right or her right, if I'm writing whatever character I'm writing, then the side characters I get to test out, my creativity skills before I think like, oh, I've got a lead character. I can't tell you the number of times I've come across pitches of like, this comic is unlike anything you've ever seen before. I'm one of the biggest nerds you're ever going to meet,
Mhm.
and for that to be true, I I'll read through something like, okay, it's good, but it is like this. Stop saying I've never seen it before because I have, you know.
Definitely.
But I mean, I get the enthusiasm and excitement, but I'd say public domain's a good place to start. You know, start working out your writing muscles.
Yeah. And yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up. It wasn't like a call out trying to call you out or anything. It was, I agree that, because people always struggle with, I need to, like you said, I need to come with an idea that no one's ever seen before. But sometimes just starting with public domain, like you said, is a training ground.
Yeah, it's like I think even Dynamite Comics says they're using a lot of public domain characters, like Project Superpowers. The majority of those characters are public domain, though I know there's that thing though, like their versions are under trademark, or like they got, like Black Terror, I believe, is technically in the public domain, but you can't use the name Black Terror to advertise your book, though you can have him in it.
Okay.
It's something where I find it. I have no desire to be a lawyer, though apparently I argue like one. But I love that, like, legal minefield of, like, you and I could sit down, come up with an absolutely the best Black Terror story, but we could not call the book Black Terror,
Right.
to advertise it. And that's just an example. But yeah, public domain's a lot of fun. And then if you want to, there's some really goofy ideas that I'm thinking, who thought this was a good thing? So if you want to do a comedy route, you can go that way too.
Okay. And actually, what you're leads me to my point of, or no, not my point, but my question of, do you think, like you said, people want to try so hard to be so original and do what's never been done before. Do you think there's any point in doing that, or, to just succumb to the fact that nothing's original and I'll just,
Oh, if only Eric now could have this conversation with young Eric, he could have straightened out a lot of problems. I think you can. There's a way you can still be original, but all of like the prototype, or like, I should say, the central ideas have been established and taken. You want dark avenging heroes. Batman's like your prime example, and he's even a mashup of like Zorro and the Phantom.
I never thought. Okay, I never thought of Zorro for Batman. Good to know.
Yeah. But as I said, I'm a huge dork, But and Superman, of course, has his influences, but if those are like the primary character, and of course, then there's like Wonder Woman, and like those three pillars, you have. It's like most other heroes are just a mashup of them in some way. Uh, and the point of being original is that you can be, but you can't be, I should say, in the way of like, oh, no one's ever seen this superpower before, because somewhere someone's come up with that power. But what you can do is bring your life experiences to a character in a way that no one else can do. Or your world outlook. That's what Steve Ditko did when he was creating his own characters. I happen not to agree with Ayn Rand, that much, but the point is Ditko did, and he brought that philosophy to his characters. It's not mine, but I can't deny the fact that, well, it's his point of view.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know when we were first chatting, I was saying how the Seattle freeze is definitely a real thing. And you're in Oakland, correct?
Oakland, yeah.
Yeah, so if you wrote a story about the Seattle freeze, it would be much different than mine. And we're really nice people for the most part. We just will absolutely make no effort to see you beyond our first encounter. But that being said, at least the architecture is really beautiful. Come up here. But
I do want to get there. Love to just travel up north.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I'd recommend it. But the point is like the life experiences that everyone has are vastly different, and in that case, you can bring that to the table. Like BreakNek, for example. it's like she's based in a lot of culture I grew up with and loved during the 90s. Like, okay, I love, for example, the game Mega Man X. The whole that series is like it's totally what I live for, even though the games are incredibly difficult and I die more frequently now than I remember. Side point. The main point is though, is like I wanted to like recapture that feeling that I had. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. It's happening, you know. It, to me, it was really exciting. And you, of course, have something else that inspired you.
Mhm.
And I don't know what that is, but I bet when I read one of your stories or one of your comics, that is going to come through really strongly.
Mhm.
And so, in that case, yeah, if I ever got to write Superman, write or draw him,
Yeah.
it'd be different than every other Superman before.
Yeah.
But that being said, it would still be, you know, Superman because, hey,
Mhm.
you know, he's supposed to be there to inspire people.
Right. Yeah, I guess I mean it's kind of like if you were so if you say you get that chance to write a Superman story and you it's that balance of keeping within the constraints of the brand of Superman and that what DC wants, and then also bringing your own original stories to it, your own personal experiences that can help make it something new and original. Have you? What's the most interesting Superman stories you've read?
Okay,
And any and also any ones where you felt like or where you learned that the artist or creators personal experiences influence it too.
um, there, there's a really interesting book written about them, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster.
Mhm.
Um, I I'm blanking on its name now because I am absolutely terrible with names.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
but anyway, the point is that I read a lot of where their influences came from.
Mhm.
Like for example, the artist I know had vision problems, and subconsciously that translated to the fact that his characters all had these really narrow eyes. If you look at his artwork,
What?
yeah.
Okay.
Uh, and of course, we have other artists who came in, and you know, art styles changed. My personal favorite Superman story are the ones written by Alan Moore.
Mhm.
Um, there's this really great one where Superman's been paralyzed and he's living what he thinks is his dream world. Of course, it's all an illusion. Uh, I like that one very much. What really got me into the character is actually the Bruce Timm animated series, because I'm thinking, oh my god, it's like an optimistic Batman. How great is that? Uh,
Cool. Yeah, I love Bruce Timm's art.
yeah, he. Uh, I had the pleasure of meeting him once at Comic Con. I'm sure he remembers me. I'm probably not. I was like the millionth person he saw that day. But I like I like a lot of the stories that essentially reflect that he is a figure of. Uh, and I like this of most characters. I like my heroes to be heroic.
Mhm.
Because I'm a super corny guy, you know, just by nature. I really like. I like when characters do the right thing, even though they may struggle with a hard decision.
Mhm.
Um, it's like when they make Superman dark, like with the Injustice storylines. I'm like, I get it as a creative exercise, but I'm not that big a fan of it.
Mhm.
And that's just my personal opinion. Like, if I got the chance to write one, it would honestly be focusing on Clark Kent and the fact that, listen, he has all these superpowers,
Mhm.
but has anyone ever stopped to consider he's actually a talented writer who
Mhm.
is qualified to work at the Daily Planet? I mean, you can you can have great superpowers, but have no writing talent. That's not Kryptonian. That had to be taught, you know, that had to be born and, you know, taught with it to him by good teachers. And somehow I would work that into, you know, into a narrative.
I would love to hear that actually. I'm actually, I mean, I'm not huge I'm not a big Superman fan, but you saying that, like, I'd be more interested in Clark Kent, the character.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Clark Kent is Superman just trolling people. I mean, because like there's there's no reason that he actually has to be Clark Kent.
Hmm.
I mean, nowadays, I mean, he could be Superman 24/7. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if he just patrolled the planet, he would hear, natural disasters happening or, bad guys doing something. I mean, why on earth does he need to have a day job? You think the number of times he saved Metropolis, people just like say, "Hey, have some soup on us. You don't need to eat today. You saved my life." And he's got the Fortress of Solitude. So I just would say, why does he still need Clark Kent?
Mm.
I mean, I get it when he was a kid, but he's not Superboy any longer.
Yeah. Have you heard the I read about this, I think it was on Wikipedia. I guess it was the opposite between Superman and Batman, in which Batman, he's like who he when he's Batman, that's who he really is versus the Bruce Wayne. And then for Superman, Clark Kent is really how he is, not Superman.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that one. I think um, I when I'm creating characters, for example, it's like I think I don't have okay, I have one character that has a secret identity,
Mm,
but for the most part, I guess I took the Fantastic Four approach in that no, this person is who they are, 24/7. Because I was thinking, I spend more of my free time wondering what would I do if I had superpowers
mhm,
than I probably should. And I'm thinking, okay, if I had superpowers, I would like to think I was a hero.
mm,
Uh, but then I'm thinking, I'd probably just be that guy 24/7.
mhm,
Uh, because it's a lot less stress and you're not lying to people.
mhm. That's true. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we all have wondered, like, oh, if I had powers, or I would be a hero, what would I do? But do you still think, but there is a weird necessity in needing to be normal because either you hear, and I've heard it from all kinds of different movies and shows that have come out, but it's like if people know you're that hero, they're always going to come to you with problems and you're always going to be working, or you're going to be attacked or chased out of town by an angry mob. And also just the basic necessities of needing a place to live, bills, things like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is a very good point, and honestly, I could debate this, or not debate, but discuss this for a very long time. But
Mhm.
I'd also say, depending on the powers that you have,
True.
like, okay, Superman's a god, so you know, but Batman, yeah, he needs to keep the secret identity,
Hmm.
because he's mentally unstable. Uh,
Hmm.
Wonder Woman, I think, or as Diana Prince, cares a lot about people,
Hmm.
just as a person, so I can see why she wants a work-life balance. But anyway, just going through the roster of things like that, and Peter Parker is probably the most realistic I can think of how
Yep.
characters are written, and
Hmm.
and also the same too with Miles Morales. I love him as well.
Yeah.
With with like the family dynamic, trying to figure out things at that age,
Hmm.
all kinds of things like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking, I agree with you about Spider-Man. Just now thinking about is that I guess without the bug bite, without the spider bite, he had things he had a future in mind that he wanted to do already. So it's kind of like struggling with, I still want to be this person, but now I've got this power and these responsibilities.
yeah, that's
And
interesting.
a lot of guilt around his uncle's death too. He's got that.
Very much so. That's actually interesting too. You bring that up because there's always what a character wants in the story versus what they want in life.
Hmm.
Like, okay, breaking it down into superheroes, for example. Um, oh, and let's go with Batman because everyone knows him. Uh, he wants, of course, to stop the bad guy of the story arc. Riddler, Two Face, Mister Freeze, whatever.
Hmm.
What he really wants, though, is to punish criminals for stealing his childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's things like that that I think honestly prevent him from investing in like the health, like mental health facilities for people,
Mm,
outreach programs, cleaning up the poverty, or
mm,
in Gotham, basically what billionaires should be doing in real life.
yeah.
Um, because he has this personal vendetta that, and he really just wants to keep punishing Joe Chill, who shot his parents,
Yeah.
like over and over and over again.
That's a cool. I never thought of it that way. That's a great analysis. I like that. That yeah, he wants to do the right thing, but he's still so caught up in his own anger and pain. But like you said, I was like, oh yeah, that's true. I don't really hear much about Bruce Wayne doing all these civil humanitarian efforts. It's just
Yeah.
Batman going in and punching people.
And if I did write a Batman story, if I ever got the luxury, that is the arc I would explore.
Cool.
Is I would have, I mean, honestly, reading the books, I kind of agree with Red Hood more than they probably want you to. Like, they keep coming back and killing people. Why are you surprised all the time?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I would try to have Bruce Wayne affecting social change,
Hmm.
uh, for once. And I would say with story arcs, and one thing I like about being an independent creator
Hmm.
is you can try something for a while, but ultimately it subtly gets reset to the status quo.
Hmm.
Um, and, meaning like, okay, like it's kind of like how characters aren't really dead.
Yeah.
Like when and so eventually it's like, oh, we're taking the character in this direction, but then subtly they'll go back to what we're familiar with.
Mm.
And the cool thing about doing your own work is that, if I want Breakneck to, uh, I don't know, this is just off the top of my head. If I want her to get involved in an intergalactic war, for example, and then have that war change her,
Mm.
and say that's I'm being optimistic here, issue 50.
Mm.
And if issue 51 on, she has a different outlook, different this or that, then I think that I'm not beholden to anybody who's saying like any other, like, yeah, but we're not selling toys now,
Mm.
and the comic and the animated tie-in thinks that your direction's too dark, so can you have her have amnesia? Uh,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, no, I'm not going to do that, because I think characters are supposed to evolve, remain true to what we love about them, but they're supposed to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, yeah, kind of making me think of what we were talking about when you're talking about all the pulp books you had written. Um, what do you think is better? Do you prefer when a character, see a bad guy or a good guy, stays dead once they're beaten, or are you cool with them coming back if it works?
Okay, it would depend. I will admit some of it's personal preference. If I'm a fan of the bad guy, I would love to see him resurrected. If not, then I'm a hypocrite. I'm like, keep him dead. Um, I think though that there are ways to bring back villains that I think are interesting, especially if they find ways to, I don't want to say reinvent themselves,
Mhm.
but I like seeing writers do clever spins on certain villains. Like all-time favorite Batman villain is Mister Freeze, um, and he was just a generic ice villain until he was brought back again by Bruce Timm and his creative team.
Mhm.
Uh, Given this tragic backstory,
Yeah.
and uh, and then you're like, man, I'm kind of rooting for this guy here. I mean, I don't. I mean, murder's not cool, but if I was I'd be the world's worst Batman. I am telling you right now because I would be so willing to like. Well, you I said, okay, I get it. I'm gonna look the other way for like 2 minutes. And I can be bought, people, is what I'm saying, I guess. But what I like, but when a villain is dead, I would say, if it's like some low level, like I don't know, crime figure, like mafia boss or something like that, I don't see any reason to keep bringing a character like that back
Hmm.
because criminals, are disposable. Like your like garden variety. Like to me, they're like primers for supervillains. But if you're writing a book that's supposed to be realistic in tone, I think Death will have much more impact. Like you're referencing that my personal favorite comic is Astro City,
Hmm.
written by the great Kurt Busiek and illustrated by, for the most part, by I think Brent Anderson. I'm not sure if there was any guest artists, but like what I love is that there's a character in there, the Silver Agent, who I mean he's dead in the continuity, but we still see him in stories, but there is part of like, oh, we're building upon this, like they're like flashbacks, but death is permanent in that universe, and it's really compelling because then when characters reminisce, you're thinking, wow, you almost feel with them. I wish I was there.
Hmm. Sure. So you also do commissions.
Yes, I do.
Cool. How well, I mean, on your website, are the prices on your website, are those the current ones?
uh, yeah, I am thinking of updating just a little bit, but if you want to commission me, I'll keep it the same.
No, no, that's fine.
Okay. But yeah, the commission work I do, I'm really excited about.
Mhm.
One of a woman just commissioned me to do a Legend of Zelda.
So
Um,
yeah, so you're working on
yeah, well, it's complete now, and she sent me she got it for her son, and it's now in a frame in her house, and I'm really excited about that, and oh, and I'd give her a shout out. She's a photographer, Heather Strauss Photography. If you're looking to get any kind of portraiture or just, she does event work too, all kinds of things. So thank you, Heather. I hope I did just solid. Anyway, but yeah, the commission work I do 11 by 17 or 8 by 10,
it. Hmm.
and the only things I'm not interested in doing are like anything too exploitative.
Hmm.
That's for me. That's just nothing I personally would want to sign my name to. I'm sure
Right.
I'm losing a ton of money doing this, but at the end of the day, I'm just like, hey, I'm a corny guy who actually believes all the inspirational messages on Power Rangers. So uh, I, I, but anyway, I'm finishing up another person's commission today. Well, at least getting the roughs done, I should say.
Mhm.
It's for a book I've been illustrating for them, and always. And the thing with working with commissions is you're always hustling for work,
Yeah.
and it's and like you'll see on Facebook, for example, where I find a lot of my work.
Mm-hmm.
Someone says, "Hey, I need an artist in this style," and there's at least 50 comments with 50 links to portfolios, and
Hmm.
and yeah, it's when I first started. I think to be an artist, you have to be really arrogant, at least partially, because
I agree with that. I
I
agree
mean,
with that.
you are going up against professionals and people who have way more experience than you,
Hmm.
and you have to have the courage to say my work is just as valid as your work.
Hmm.
And the thing about art that's great is like there's some people that will love your art and some people that will think it's garbage.
Yeah.
And with the commissions, I don't, I have no clue what people would call my artistic style. I mean, hopefully not crap. but some people are like, I love your style. Hey, thanks. What is it? I don't even know. I'm just trying to draw like the people I admire. Um, but I think that, but yeah, the commission work, it's a lot of fun, and I've had some interesting requests.
Good ones or weird ones? By what do you mean by interesting?
Some of them I get are are standard stuff that I like to do. Like like someone says, "Hey, can you draw Iron Man Mark 42? I'm going to be doing that one soon."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. Also, answer yes to every commission. That if they want to meet your price, I would say, and it doesn't violate any kind of, like any principle you set for yourself. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're cool with doing like more like not safe for work stuff, great, good, go do it. Uh, but my point is that like if someone says, "Can you draw this?" and it's in your schedule, always say yes,
Mm-hmm.
even if you can't, because that will force you to grow as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Like like I did a Nightcrawler drawing that I'm going to be coloring later.
Seen this
That
one.
yeah, that was mostly for myself, but
Mm-hmm.
um, the point is, it was a suggestion from someone else. I'd never drawn him before,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, okay, this will be an interesting challenge. And the only way you grow as an artist is by challenging yourself. Like I have the hardest time drawing like the okay, basically the contemporary movie Iron Man, because he has all these like uh not rivets, but sections of armor, plates everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do a lot of figure drawing, it's typically a naked human form,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just nothing but these flowing muscles and musculature.
Yeah.
So uh, but then like when you put the armor on top of it, you realize that, oh man, a lot of artists kind of fudge it a little to make it look good,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a normally proportioned head. The first drawing I did of Iron Man, a professional artist gave me a great critique, which is you drew Iron Man's head okay, but it's the same size as a human head. The Iron Man head needs to be bigger, because of the helmet around it.
Yeah.
He said that. I'm like, yeah, duh. But yeah, my favorite commission story was this nice guy at Comic Con. He comes up to me and he says, "Your sign says ask about commissions," and I like, yeah, want me to draw something? Also, it was my first commission. I had never done one before. Prior to that, I told people I had just to have people get confidence.
Yeah.
But he said, "Okay, I want you to draw me a Cthulhu. It's loud." I wasn't sure I heard him right. I said, "Cthulhu." He's like, you know, he's like, the tick, the blue guy. Me, yeah, yeah. Cthulhu. Me, yeah, the Lovecraft monster.
Mhm.
Now use your mind, use your imagination, come up with it in your head, and then he said, I'm gonna wander around the con. That'll be about 45 minutes to an hour. And he said, "Do you think you'll have it done by then?" Hey, totally in my head. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
So I quickly just I'm thinking, okay, I know what Cthulhu looks like. Tick, I have to get the eyes right. So I am drawing as fast as I can while still maintaining quality.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have like I have this Japanese brush pen. It's meant for calligraphy, but I used it for inking. And
Nice.
now I'm just inking, trying to get it, to look semi-professional. And I'm thinking, okay, so I am like rising, grabbing this rock spire. I had the waves crash, just trying to make it as epic as possible. And then I have other people coming up to me, asking me questions, engaging in conversations, and you're not trying to be a jerk to these people, but I'm like, oh yeah, so you wrote the story? Oh, sure, yeah, I won a Pulitzer. Yeah, and he, he comes back and he is like so thrilled.
Cool.
And so that was my first ever commission, and then I've had to turn down some furry commissions just because I'm thinking like, okay, I am like one step away from calling the FBI on you, just to let you know.
No.
But
Oh.
but then I've had ones like, hey, can you draw my boyfriend or can you draw my girlfriend? Things like that, and just a nice portrait. And I'm like, oh my God, yes, yes.
Yeah. Those have to be a little bit easier because at least they probably give you a photo or something to
Oh
have
yeah,
a little less pressure.
yeah. I mean, I'm at least hoping they're their significant others in real life now. Now I'm worried.
Yeah.
That
At least it's not like a tattoo. Well, hopefully they don't tattoo it on themselves.
oh yeah, I have mad respect for tattoo artists
Yeah.
because I even when I'm inking now, I see that I'm like, oh, that line's bad. I'll make it a feather, you know. So to have that permanency, and like, if you're a great tattoo artist, then no, way to go.
Yeah, definitely. A quick side question, and then I do want. And, my quick side question is, what's your favorite Power Ranger series?
Oh God.
I should pop them up.
Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna say Dino Thunder right now.
Okay.
Um, followed closely by and these two are duking it out in my head between Zeo and RPM.
Okay. I'd heard of. I I was not into Power Rangers. I was more into Digimon, which I think came on after when they were on the same channel.
I
But I knew people who were, and they talked about RPM, and it sounds really cool.
Okay, what I love about RPM is that you don't have to watch any of the prior shows
Hmm.
to it, but it's like the show was about to get canceled. Like no more. So the writers, I think, just said, okay, we're gonna just throw something at the wall. So imagine combining Mad Max and Power Rangers, and that's what you get. And I saw, and I when I heard that Netflix was removing all the shows, I'm like, I've got to binge watch like crazy.
Hmm.
So I really got. I'm watching it. I'm thinking, I'm getting into it, you know. And they have some real meta moments on that show I love,
Okay.
like saying there's a bit where the characters are asking their mentor figure, Dr. K, in that one, like, why? Said, so why do we have to scream our names, at the top of our lungs while we transform? Or it's a voice activated system that they're giving in universe explanations to these things, like how come there's a six-story explosion behind us whenever we transform? The energy, things like that. That is, to me, genuinely funny stuff.
Cool.
And okay, why I say Dino Thunder is the best?
I was
It
gonna
has
ask. Yeah, I was gonna ask why you like Dino Thunder.
um, but also I should say I really enjoyed Beast Morphers, the almost latest show. I think Dino Charge is coming out, but yes, you can be 31 going on 32 and still like the Power Rangers. I give you permission to, if anyone's out there. But anyway, I I want anyway. What I like is that first off, it has a. It's like the yellow one, and that show's my favorite. She's a real strong lead.
Hmm.
I like that she doesn't take crap from anybody.
Mm.
And the leader of the team starts off as this arrogant, sexist guy, and you don't like him at first, but over the show he grows and evolves as a person. But it's not the one. It's not a one episode arc of, gee, I learned being sexist was bad. You
Mm.
you see him gradually learn the error of his ways, and the
Okay.
same too with the lead character on that show. She is, I think they called her like the poster girl for teen angst. But she doesn't reach out to people wanting to be this edgy artist type, and learns that you can still be an artist, have an edge, but that doesn't mean you can't have real friendships and relationships with people. and you know, and then the other characters in the show. It's kind of like how people remember Mighty Morphin being, but
Yeah,
not actually. Don't get me wrong, I love the first show, but it was like trying to find its legs, you know.
it's
Like,
very cheesy.
oh yeah,
Definitely
I mean,
nineties.
I would say definitely good cheese, but still,
Okay.
there's still some bits though where I'm thinking, okay, certain things work, certain things don't.
Mm,
But uh, but yeah, overall, I enjoyed the show a great deal. I There've only been a few I couldn't get into.
mhm,
I hope I'm not knocking anyone's favorite seasons, but it doesn't sound like I am. I and it really, and I think this is true for all mediums. It really has to do with you liking the leads of the show and it, or of the comic or book or whatever. It's like if I, it's not even a matter of relating to the character. Is like, um, okay, I can't really relate to like Spawn, one of my favorite characters. I there, uh,
ah, okay.
but can I relate to him? No, I have never been in the military. I have, you know, I said I'm not married yet, and I, you know, and I haven't gone to hell and come back. These issues, oh, I can't relate to them. But the character I find interesting and though deeply flawed, likable. It's like the same with the Ninja Turtles, you know, with the exception of Raph, who I always thought was a real piece of work. The
Yeah,
rest
right.
of them, it's like some people are like, oh, I love Raphael. I'm like, oh, I know everything about you now. Stay away from me. But it's like I always wanted to hang out with Michelangelo and you know Leo and Don. They seemed really cool to me. But I like, uh, but you want to, but when you're creating, you just want to spend time with these characters as a reader or viewer. Um, like, and I think as a creator too, it's like visiting friends. Like this comic I'm working on now, just in the writing stages. It's a comedy called Shadow and Shade. Um, it's a and you realize that Shadow is, as I'm writing him, he is a total loser, but he tries so hard in life
Mm,
that I, at least for me, you can't help but kind of love him. Is that it's like people are like, you really suck at your life, but you're trying so hard. I have to respect you. And his partner Shade, um, she's not the voice of reason, I would say, because then that puts all the focus on one character. And when you're, in my opinion, if you're doing like a duo book, uh, the characters have to find some way to work well together.
yeah.
And I mean, I know the classic school of thinking is to like say, okay, well, if one character's gruff and rugged, the other has to be like refined and elegant.
Mm,
But that doesn't always have to be the case. If you look at, okay, what Frasier, one of my favorite shows, the leads of that show are the same person basically. And they drive each other nuts because of that. And and like my best friend and I, Daniel, yeah, we have our differences. He's better at certain things than I am, and vice versa. But we are very similar dorks about things, you know, and similar outlooks, similar things like that. So why these two work together is that they're both irreverent. They're the type who will tell each other dad jokes and both laugh. They may go, they may solve things differently. It's a mystery story.
mm,
Yeah, the first one is about how they met, etc. But but it's like he, you know, he has his abilities, she has hers, and their abilities couldn't be more different,
mhm.
but their outlooks are similar. And the point is, I think that we all have that friend who is kind of like a like a dog chasing a car or parked car. It's like, man, you are just trying so hard. I cannot be mad at you. Sure, you burned dinner, but man, you put so much effort into it.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess what I want to ask is, so how do you balance all these things that you're working on? You've got commissions, you're working on a breakneck,
Yeah,
and then of course you're working on other people's series, which I'll kind of say are a little different from commissions.
yeah, yeah. The way I prioritize it, of course, is like paid work comes first,
Mhm.
and especially works with deadlines come first. Like I did a portrait that I, I worked almost nonstop on it because I had to do Copic and color pencil rendering on top of it on
Mhm.
an 11 by 17 canvas. That took me about a week to do in its entirety. Um, but the way I balance it is like paid work first, especially work with a deadline, then paid work without a deadline. If it's flexible, like the kind of like, hey, you can get this to me in like 2 weeks. If not, just keep me updated. I'm like, okay, cool. Um, then I draw almost every night. Sometimes I just need a break. I'm only human. Uh, but the process I enjoy the most is inking.
Mhm.
So I try to schedule 1 day penciling, 1 day inking uh, work. Coloring is its own beast. I'm hoping to make enough 1 day to actually pay professional flatters
Mm.
because that is not fun. Not fun at all. It is like the if making comics was like the TV show The Office, it'd be like the Toby Flenderson of the comics process. And like I do flatting. I've done flatting for other people. It is not fun. Uh, so people who make a living doing that, I'm just saluting you right now because I cannot do it.
Yeah, colors are hard. Um, and it's do you well you use both Copics and you work digitally as well. You have different
Yeah,
options. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. At least with digital you can hit the undo button.
yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly with Copics I have to psych myself up sometimes.
Mm.
Uh, be, but the thing is, like when you get it to work, it is very beautiful.
Cool.
Uh, and when it doesn't work, uh, there was something I heard. Again, name escapes me, so let's pretend I said it because I'll sound extra profound. But what I like working traditionally about is it teaches you a lot about art and a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
Like, like you make a mistake, you have to incorporate it into your art
Hmm.
because you can't go to your client and say, "Hey, I hope you enjoyed the piece, so except for when I blurred the line too much there, or except for that spill." Because I'm thinking, no one's going to be happy about that.
Yeah.
Um, not saying I make these mistakes frequently, but in my own work, when I'm doing the practices, uh, if I'm like, oh no, like the India ink, I accidentally smeared a bit of it. Well,
Oh,
guess this is getting some feathering on it now. Um, Famously, when I was learning to use a quill, I accidentally overloaded it, and then there's this ink blot just
oh,
right, like right on the page, and I'm thinking, I stared at it for a moment. I'm like, okay, guess which place is now getting a grimy like brick wall that I can just feather this out in.
yeah.
But but yeah, it's kind of like playing improv games.
Hmm.
Teaches you to adapt.
Yeah.
Uh, Digital, I won't lie, is much more convenient.
Yeah. Definitely.
Um, and I definitely see the appeal, especially when working on monthly deadlines.
Hmm.
Um, but for me, the weirdest thing about that psychologically is that like you're working away on a piece, it's done, but then you technically don't have anything.
Hmm.
It's like a file on the computer that like, well, I can't just take it off and sell anyone the original,
Yeah.
or I can't really save it in my archives, and that could just be me feeling that way. But I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying,
No, no, it's a good it's an interesting perspective. Just the digital age, and everything is definitely more convenient. But then you do wonder, like, do we really have anything? Do we own things?
yeah, that it's why I prefer print as much as possible. I will say though, thank goodness for the advent of digital lettering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Because yours truly and spelling are not the best of allies. Uh, and the funny thing is, like, God, when I was a little kid, making before Photoshop was common for everyone,
Hmm.
I would like be doing comics by hand, and my parents would be like, "Eric, you spelled that wrong," and I
Yeah.
had just like done that in ink too. So I'm thinking, like, I'm sure like older people found it adorable, like, oh, he spelled that wrong, wasn't he cute? No, I was a serious creator at 8, you know. I fully expected to be working at Marvel in the next couple of years, but I knew they wouldn't accept misspelling. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's fun to. Yeah, I mean, it's fun like when you find your old artwork. It's tangible. You can go back to it, and I mean, I still love 2D animation, and it's amazing what these people accomplish with just hand drawn, and even the imperfections make it more special. Um, but yeah, and when I was thinking of lettering, when you mentioned lettering, it was making me think of the way they had to go about it with the dots or something, and then get it lined up. The Ames system. I don't know if that's what's called.
I don't know either. It was covered briefly in a lettering class I took, but it was more about digital lettering, which, if you've seen my handwriting, thank God there's digital lettering. Uh, it's like someone said, I can't understand how you can use a pen and a quill, excuse me, pen and a quill so well, and yet have such bad handwriting. And like, well, you know what?
At least you're good at inking. I'm terrible at inking. It stresses me out.
Well, do you ink digitally or on paper?
But both initially. So I've tried inking mostly traditionally. Just I don't know. Just I'm not definitely. I'm gonna ask you my next question is what do you do to practice? But for digital, I've kind of come up with a little cheat, which is that I'll do my sketch work a lot and tighten it up as much, and then I'll just use the eraser tool and kind of clean up the sketch.
Okay, well, I mean, I think that's a great way of going about it too. If as long as you like the result, but to practice inking, the first thing I do is like take your brush, your quill, your micron pen, or Pentel pocket brush, whatever you want,
Mhm.
and start just doing lines, seeing how well you can control it,
Mhm.
and then go thick to thin, alternating, seeing how close you can get them. It's like various exercises.
Mhm.
Tedious, yes, but um, it's kind of like an inking teacher I had. She was really great. She was like, it's kind of like trying to put up the windows of your house before you've laid the foundation.
Oh
If you
no.
if you don't do things like that, and so I'm like, okay, good point. So when you're getting better with the line work, I just do a drawing I don't want to say I don't care about, but like, okay, say you just do a basic, I don't know, torso and go to ink that. Pick a light source and then start inking.
Mhm.
For me, I find that if it's like when you load up the ink into the into your brush pen, or no, into your brush, I should say. Brush pens come with their own ink. Uh, you'll tend to find that it gets really heavy at the beginning. Like my first inks looked very, very bad.
Mhm.
All the lines were thick, and that just comes with practice and control. Um, and so what I do is start off with the areas of heavy shadow first. Like, okay, if I'm inking like my face here, because you have very even lighting, I've got a heavy shadow. Um, excuse me. Oh, hiccup for no reason.
No.
Um, I would place my lines starting here, the heaviest one like here and around here. Try to do it in reverse. Uh, I would get that shape done to get a lot of the ink off. And then for me, I like to use a lot of feathering. Some artists don't.
Mhm.
Uh, but then I would start to feather out and create the grays with like some lines underneath here and actually some lines here, just feather lines.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, starting with those areas of heavy shadow for actually, I can show you a piece that
Yeah.
I finished inking. So just give me a
Yeah.
second. And I'm back. Okay, so now, so this Nightcrawler piece I just finished up on.
Nice.
Oh, thank you. What I did first was started with this area here,
Mhm.
this part of the actually, yeah, this part of the leg. I started with the heaviest shadow first,
Okay.
and what I what I did there was like, okay, I outlined the shape a bit, and then when the heavier ink was off, I just feathered it lightly up into there.
Hmm.
And then I'm like, okay, now I have the confidence to go with this area, you
Okay.
know, and always have your thickest line away from the light source.
Of course. Hmm.
Like,
Oh, yeah,
like,
for sure.
yeah, yeah. I'm having it, come from up above.
Hmm.
I just put this line work here because that's on a lot of Nightcrawler's drawings. Wanted to pay, tribute to that.
Hmm.
And then have the thick line here and the thinner line up here. The thinner lines come when you start to build confidence. You're
Okay.
like, okay, I'm getting the thick shadows down. I really like how this is going. So now I'm gonna, like, and then start to ease up on your brush. See how thin you can get that line. Like, I think this might be the thinnest part of the piece. And like thinking, okay, so because that's the closest to whatever light source we have. I
Hmm.
mean, it's like in the background detail here. Yeah, I just inked that with a pen, and I did that to deliberately contrast with the organic form here down with
Yeah.
the brush. Uh, but yeah, to get better at inking it's almost like any other skill. You have to ink. Uh, if you can track it down, there is a fantastic book um, that Dark Horse put out that actually has. It's the best book I've actually got it right here. So
Oh, yeah.
uh, I like how I'm plugging as many things as I can that aren't even mine. Okay, so the art of comic book inking.
Okay.
Uh,
Gary
prob-
Mark.
yeah, probably hands down the best book I've ever read on inking.
Okay.
But the coolest thing about it too is that it comes with like, I think like 8 or so pages, like done in the non-repro blue, that you can practice on.
Mm.
And they don't tell you how to do it, but there's this wonderful section where they interview a bunch of artists who have inked the page, and they talk about their approach and how they did it. And there is even a section too on digital inking.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Yo, thanks. So it was The Art of Inking, comic book inking by Gary Martin, I think.
Yep.
All right. Cool. So for anyone, check that out. I'll definitely look into that because yeah, for now I found this sort of cheat for me. Well, it was a kind of a video I had seen. It was one of the suggestions that the person was saying. But yeah, I always inking always annoyed me because I felt like I lost all the life that was in the sketch.
Yeah, I I definitely can understand where that comes from. And it depends on the instrument that you use. Like if you use micron pens, just
Mm,
as an example, to ink that, great pens, but you get a deadline
mhm.
of it being the same thickness, and I I feel so arrogant saying, but now with me,
Well, no,
but
yeah, I was gonna say that I'm seeing the opposite
yeah,
problem with yours is that I saw the sketch on Facebook
yeah,
before, and now when I see it with the inks, it just pops so much more.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say those like you get these, or what I'm trying to go for these cursive lines,
Hmm.
going from uh, like thick to thin, and and that helps it pop a great deal. But I keep my pencils pretty loose.
Hmm.
Um, the thing with comic book art is that, and a lesson I had to learn too, is that you have to make your initial drawing as big as possible and as broad as possible, because it's just going to keep getting reduced down to the if you print it, the final printed page.
Hmm.
So like you don't, like, for example, you don't throw a punch in a comic book the way you would in real life. Like, in real life, just keep, it's kind of like you keep it like that. Your head's covered. You're just jabbing out. Uh,
Yeah.
but in a comic book, it has to be, all the way.
Mm-hmm.
You're totally, like, everything in that character is open, everything like that, and
Hmm.
draw as big and exaggerated as possible. Your inking will take it down a little bit. It will take it down another step, but hopefully not much if you've drawn it big enough.
Hmm.
And then when it's, because I draw an 11 by 17 Bristol, when it's printed by, I think, 9 by 6, I want to say. I could be wrong with those uh, measurements. Oh, no, I definitely am. But anyway,
Oh,
um,
standard comic size, you mean?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, the whole 6 point something, and then 10 something.
Yeah, there we go. I knew I was wrong. But it, I was to say, it's like, it's going to be so reduced that you have to make it extra big just to get it to where you saw it in the first place when you drew it.
Hmm.
And yeah, actually, if I could plug my own YouTube channel here, the first video I did was on inking with micron pens and how to get rid of that deadline problem.
Hmm.
Um, I don't mean deadline as in scheduling, literally just a flat,
Yeah.
yeah, an interesting line. And I started with that character Steel,
Okay.
uh, whom of the four contenders to be Superman, he was the one I liked the most. Um, but yeah, I'll send you that link if you want to check it out. Hopefully, it helps.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely. Thank you. I'm hoping. I think I put the link to your YouTube channel in the description as well as your website. So definitely, everyone, go check out Erik's YouTube channel and website and find more of his drawing videos.
yeah, please do that. I mean, do what she said. She's way cooler than me. Oh wait, hang on, it's reversed. She's way cooler than me. There we go.
um, I do want to. I don't want to take up much more of your time
Oh,
today, but I do want to ask, how do you? I guess how do you go about building up your audience, especially for BreakNek, your own personal work? And because I see you've got a website, and would you say that's an important factor for anyone to have?
yeah, I think a web presence definitely is essential nowadays as an artist. I wish it was back in the Silver Age when you could apparently just walk into Marvel offices with your portfolio and they'll be like, "Well, we'll take our lowest selling book and give it to you."
Oh, that would be nice.
But nowadays, it's like, I think there's like armed guards you have to like get past, and then a 10-foot concrete wall, and then then surveillance. I don't know. It seems like, and but and the same with most other people in the comics industry.
Mm,
But I think that, yeah, building an audience is something I'm still working on.
mhm,
And frankly, it's reaching out to other creators like you. When you put yourself out there saying, "Hey, I've got the show. who wants to be on it, and I have absolutely no shame in reaching out saying, "Hey,
It's
I
good.
want to be."
I finish. Go ahead, and finish. I do want to. I just want to say one thing of praise after you're done. But go for it.
Okay. Um, but yeah, I think that consistent output is ideal. And okay, I haven't been that consistent lately, but because I've had to sign a lot of NDAs, I'm working on stuff I can't show people. Uh,
Yeah, that's the
so,
tricky part.
so that's why I do like the Nightcrawler or other things like that. And one thing I found that gets a pretty good engagement is putting up polls online.
Hmm.
Just like the latest drawing I'm going to do after Nightcrawler is going to be Darth Vader.
Okay.
But I felt like drawing a villain, and I put up a poll, and I said, "Hey, who do you want to see next, Loki or Darth Vader?" Interestingly, the majority of women I know all wanted to see Loki. Majority of men I know all wanted to see Darth Vader. So I'm thinking, oh, I know why,
Yeah.
but I mean, I'm going to get to them both. It's
Mm.
just it's just a matter of Vader winning out because I think there's like only one or two more dudes who wanted Vader, but I'm thinking, oh, I'll get to dreamy Tom Hiddleston sometime soon, but apparently uh, a sci-fi cyborg won the day. But
That's
yeah,
it.
I would say engage your audience and ask them questions
Hmm.
uh, about. I would say not what they want to see in terms of like, hey, where do you want the story to go? Because you're a creator, that's your job.
Yeah.
You know, if you, uh, but if you want to say, hey, are you excited to see, this or that character?
Mhm.
And I've reached out to some other creators too. Like there's another guy I saw, he drew this fantastic Wolverine pencil.
Mhm.
And I said, hey, would you mind if I took a crack at inking this and put it on my show?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, go for it. Just give me credit for the drawing.
That's
And,
cool.
and I'm thinking, great. I get to ink a really solid Wolverine drawing, and which is fun for me. And then I get to, get another episode and give this artist more exposure.
Right.
And also, yeah,
Branch out his audience a little bit too, because it's
yeah,
nice.
I mean, he has a much bigger audience than me. I'm not going to lie, but it doesn't. It never hurts. And like I'm doing and sometimes doing fan art for other indie creators helps.
Mm.
Like I met a fellow at Comic Con, Todd Rainier. I think I'm saying his name right. He does
Mm.
this character called Ice Pick, and I bought 2 issues from him, and I haven't bought issue 3 or 4 yet. Sorry, Todd, but I love his look, and I said, "Hey, can I draw this character for you?" And just even as like a pinup, he said, "Absolutely, I'll share it."
Cool.
And so I would say find other creators who are open uh, to even you just saying, "Hey, if I do this for you, will you just share it? Get my name out there?" And uh, And yeah, like your work, now I'm a subscriber to your channel. I've been watching your videos and your other interviews. And as I said, you're a very good interviewer. I'm just going to say that on the record.
Thank you. Well, it helps always. You were a very good guest for starters, so it always helps when you have good guests too. So I've been very lucky so far.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh no, good.
And the last thing I would say is putting your work out there is contests.
Mm.
Like earlier, I don't think they're doing it now, but Coffin Comics did these really fun coloring contests for like their Lady Death and Lady Merit character. I awful at pronunciation, but they did some coloring contests for them,
Mhm.
and so I again, you print it out, color in whatever medium, and thinking I got to ink over color, excuse me, over professionally done pencils, and it was a lot of fun. I learned a ton because, like, when you're doing your own work, you can sometimes be oblivious to your own mistakes.
Mm.
But I'm coloring this absolutely gorgeous, Lady Death pinup. I mean, the artist on that, she did a terrific job, and I'm like, oh, it looks so good where I put, if I put a highlight here as opposed to and I'm like, okay, something to keep in mind for my art. Actually,
Mhm.
it's why I have the art wall up behind me,
Mhm.
is that this is art that all inspires me. When people ask if I drew it, I take it as a compliment because I am not that as good as anyone up here, I feel. And even if I objectively am, I'm never going to feel that way.
Yeah, no.
But
No one ever does.
the thing is like, I find that if I look at my piece and look at that art, I'm like, you really study it, you learn something new from every piece.
Mhm.
And just like with Colossus up here, colored by my friend Jeremy Colwell,
Mhm.
it's like I love the metal rendering, for example, and the fact that he has two different light sources. And I'm thinking, to me, that's how, in my mind, comic I create, that's how I want it to look. So just sit there, study it. You'll learn a lot, even if you're not actively. It's funny, you can learn a lot just by observing the world. As I said, pay attention to conversations with your friends or family. That sparks story ideas. Pay attention to just everything. Because, like, people have their heads in their phones most of the day and they miss what's going on around them. So that's what I encourage every creator to do, is just like look up, talk to your friends, talk to your family, and you know wonder why, like, that mailbox is bent. Like,
Mhm.
what caused that? Like, oh, was that the remnant of, I don't know, like a car skidding off the road and bumping into that? Well, why
Mhm.
did the car skid off the road? Well, and then you start to back build, and you've got a little narrative.
Yeah, definitely. That was one of my favorite things. This is way before COVID. When I had decided, like, "Oh, I really got to start learning to draw, and this was 2010, 2011, and I took the bus all the time and sketching people on the bus, and I really enjoyed that because, as they say, drawing is learning to see. But also, you just realize that in a weird way, everyone's kind of beautiful in just different like things, trying to get this line on this person's face, and you just appreciate them differently than you would if you just pass them on the street.
Yeah, that's a really I agree 100% with that observation. I when I would do acting and things like that, you just observe people's mannerisms and the way they do things, and I feel like I'm almost just like alien fanboying over people whenever I study them.
Yeah.
For, like, oh man, that guy's the most interesting way of checking to see if he has gum on his shoe, things like that. But they also would, because yeah, just busing to. I took the bus too to get to go to college.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and I was looking at I look at people, you know, not in a creepy way, because you don't want to stare too long. I mean, you're already on a bus, but it's like I try to build these backstories for people, almost like trying to Sherlock Holmes it. At the Cumberbatch show, how they would have, just like lint on shoulder equals this,
Yeah.
bag under eye. I try to like be doing that for people, and I, I never actually asked to verify any of my stories, but everyone's got these own narratives, and though we don't have superpowers or hopefully aren't vigilantes, um, it's like we can. Uh, it's where characters come from. It's like we meet the characters we create, even if we're not aware of it. Like, I
That's it. Yeah, it's an interesting point. I like the way you said that.
Thanks. I'm really happy I said something that sounded intelligent and it was recorded. You know, because I have all these shower thoughts that make me sound like this profound philosopher. By the time I'm done brushing my teeth and I come out of here, I'm like, I write book for superhero punch bad guy.
Yeah, it's only two things you do better in the shower, as far as I know, which are singing and philosophizing.
Oh, definitely. I am Pavarotti and Plato rolled into one.
Um, but oh yeah, but yeah, the thing I wanted to, like you were saying about putting yourself out there is, yeah, you're right. You did put yourself out there. On top of that, I mean, a lot of, not to be like nitpicky, I'm not a stickler for rules, but one of the things I needed people to do was to directly message me to if they wanted to be on the show, and most people just left comments, which is putting yourself out there, but not. It still kind of feels safer than just directly messaging someone. So you
Yeah.
took that extra step to directly reach out. So yeah,
Well, it is. You're right. It is safer, and I feel that here's an opportunity. Here are the terms that this person wants.
Mm.
You know, I figured the worst thing you do is just not get back to me. I mean, I had nothing to lose. So I think that yeah, you said, hey, like direct message me about this,
Mm.
and I'm like, I'm not, I'm not thinking. Well, you know what? I'm just gonna leave a comment here, and yeah, she's
Yeah,
getting it. No, yeah, and I think that it's little things like that, especially when you learn that doing commissions too,
mm.
is a client will say, I want this character to look this certain way.
Mm.
That may not be what you want, but they're the ones paying you.
Yeah,
Uh, and and frankly, it's like I'm very appreciative of the work and the people who have commissioned me.
mm.
So I hope never to have that big an ego to where I'm like, you only think you want this. This is what you actually want.
Yeah, no.
I, Again, you fly up to Seattle and hit me with that frying pan, as I said earlier.
Oh, I forgot. There was something you had said earlier too that I know I wanted to mention, but I think I forgot now. Uh, um, but yeah, but again, I don't want to take up much more of your day. This was a lot of fun. I could keep going, honestly.
Sure, I have some time left. I do have work to do, of course, but yeah, I'm having fun talking with you.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, and just to open it now, if you ever want to come back on the show, you're welcome to anytime. So
Okay, yeah.
yeah, and I guess any last things you want to say to people, just to know or to promote before?
Okay. Well, uh, as I said, yeah, Breakneck #1 is on sale at Drive Through Comics. It's only 75 cents. It's a 8-page black and white comic. So if you're looking for a quick, fun read that I think pretty much everyone would enjoy, I would recommend that. Commissions, of course, I am very flexible and very excited to work on them. I'm working on some actual comics and series now that might be a little bit slower, but I like collaborating with writers, coming up with visions. I'm looking, but yeah, as far as upcoming work, yeah, I've got two or three comics. Breakneck #2. Script is finalized, characters designed, thumbnails drawn. Hope to get that out soon. Of my own work, still scripting Shadow and Shade that I mentioned. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. If you like, say something like the Phoenix Wright series or Professor Layton, those games, it's going to be a little bit like that, irreverent, funny. Third, the third one is this horror noir comic I'm working on called. Okay, it's still I don't like the title, so I can't really promote that. But I'm hoping to take that to Kickstarter soon. I'm in the coloring and lettering process of it now,
Mhm.
but it's based on it's based on a premise that I had that I really think is intriguing. That you ever notice when people get powers, they're always whining about I'm cursed with this ability. I'm thinking, no, you that's pretty cool. I
Yeah.
feel no empathy for you there. But I thought, okay, what if your power really, really sucked? Like, like it made your life hell, and you'd rather die. Like one character is, you read about these million and billionaires not doing anything,
Mm.
and I thought to myself, like, of that phrase, worth their weight in gold.
Mm.
So I literally have this character cursed to be gold, like, but with the same weight and everything as that. So
Mm.
moving for them is absolute agony.
Oh no.
Like they're like incredibly slow, incredibly, this and that, and all
Interesting.
yeah, all their money isn't doing them any good.
Hmm.
Like and uh, and like another character is an alcoholic, to get a little dark here, who killed some people while drunk driving,
Mm-hmm.
and he pretty much just blows off all rehabilitation attempts
Hmm.
and saying, whatever, like Darwin's rules, I just thin the herd. So he's cursed in a way that he like he'll he's technically immortal. I mean, if you shoot him, he'll die, but
Mm-hmm.
he can't die through like anything but a non-violent means. Anyway, he now repels all liquid, like rain. He can't absorb it. He can't drink anything anymore. He can't. And I remember telling my friend about this, one of my friends about this, and his response is like, "Everything okay at home, Eric?"
Yeah.
But I think as a creator, as I said, you could. I think my final thought I would like to leave is that it's fun to create across the whole spectrum. Breakneck, all ages. It's always going to be. You can explore mature themes in an all ages book.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Um, I think uh, two favorite all ages comics are the Ian Flynn Mega Man series from Archie Comics
Hmm.
and Super Dinosaur from Image.
Okay, I haven't heard of that one.
Okay, yeah, they're really great. I highly recommend them. Breakneck All Ages, Shadow and Shade is going to be somewhat all ages, though there's, if you want to be really prudish about it, there's some mild profanity.
Mm.
Like characters will say hell and damn, and so I wouldn't recommend it if that language bothers you.
Mm.
But other than that, it's pretty tame. Horror comic, oh, very, very much adult. Uh, but that is okay. People get so focused on this idea of branding,
Mhm.
saying, I'm an artist and I will be known for this,
Yeah.
particular kind of work. And I'm thinking, to me, that's like saying, I'm only going to drive one car for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That car's going to run out of gas.
Yeah. Or eat only one thing for the rest of your life.
Ugh. Yeah. So and I'm not saying, but you have to do what speaks to you, what speaks to your truth. Like, as you said, I'm a Digimon fan. I couldn't tell also based on all your Facebook stories. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I grew up more with Pokemon, and there's nothing wrong with either of those things. But it's just like, well, I check out Digimon. I don't know. You might come after me if I don't. So yeah, it's just if you pigeonhole yourself, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. And pursuing what you really, really love will always come. Your work will always be better. You know, I give my best effort on every drawing I do, but I can't lie. Some of the commissions for the money I know are good pieces, but they are for the money.
Mm.
Uh, as opposed to I'm just going to draw the most like badass like character I can.
Mm.
I think you can always tell. So don't sell out unless they're paying you really well. Then sell out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely I agree again with you about don't pigeonhole yourself, or even if you do, switch it up every once in a while, because I think it's you actually be surprised. I think your own creativity will surprise you in something you've never done, and also it's good for your audience. They'll get into it even though you think they won't. They might. It'll give you some new feedback.
Right, and also you can bring in a different audience too. Like, okay,
That's true.
yeah, my horror comic comes out. Hopefully, it does well on Kickstarter. I'm not expecting Keanu Reeves levels of money here,
Yeah, I don't think.
but I mean, I'm just asking for like maybe 1,000 to get some print copies out here. But but anyway, someone sees that, reads that, hopefully enjoys it, says, "Hey, what else is out from ErikonPaper? Oh, hey, BreakNek. You know, I may not be into it, but my kid might like it. You know, something like that, or my significant other. You just never know.
Yeah.
And it's like then it'd be ideally like, oh, this guy has a web show. Clicks on it. Hey, this guy. Okay, so if I just mute this irritating guy, at least the drawing parts are fun. I'll subscribe to that. You know, you never know.
Yeah.
Well,
But yeah. No, go ahead. Sorry, you're saying something.
oh no, I was just going to say that I didn't know if you had any other questions, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yes, it has been fun, and no, I don't have any more questions. So thank you so much for taking the time. Especially, we went pretty over today. I mean, there wasn't a limit, but yeah, I did not expect an hour and 40 minutes. So this is
I
great.
have a talent for that. The first podcast they did went on for like 3 hours because I thought they were going to edit it and they didn't. So
No, it's fine. Yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
yeah, I enjoyed it too.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll keep in touch.
definitely. Everyone support Erik's work. Links are in the description. You can also, yeah, his website's there too. So definitely hit him up. Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to say, which is everyone go out there and make your own stuff. And thank you again, Erik.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. And